If you ever thought this channel was sponsored by FSG, this video might change your mind, although we'd love to have the kind of financial backing. Joking aside, it's less than a month until Liverpool take on Ipswich Town for our first Premier League game of the season. Yet while every other top team is busy securing their primary targets, the Reds haven't made any concrete moves to strengthen the squad. Not only are great talents joining our rivals, but our club also isn't showing any signs of addressing some crucial positions that need strengthening. Now don't get us wrong, we're not here to be negative or pretend to know better than Michael Edwards and his team. In fact, we have complete faith in the new CEO of football, his structure, and the new manager Arne Slot. But like every single one of you, we have our worries and doubts about the club's transfer strategy. After all, we're just supporters with our own views on what feels right and wrong. That's why in today's video we're going to discuss our 4 doubts about the club's transfer strategy this summer. But before we do get into it, please do hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Liverpool deep dives. Opportunistic or passive approach. During his first press conference for the club alongside Arne Slot, Richard Hughes, the new sporting director, stated Liverpool would have a quiet July regarding transfers. However, he also mentioned that the club would try to be opportunistic in the market. Don't get us wrong, we'd love to see the club take advantage of some opportunities, signing top talents for much less than they're worth. After all, many of the best players the club has acquired in recent years were very clever opportunities. Just think of Joe Gomez, Andy Robertson, Philippe Coutinho, and many others that the club got for cheap. We even posted a video trying to explain why the club has taken such approach, so make sure to check it out. But what if these opportunities don't present themselves? What if there are no bargains to steal? Does that mean the club won't make any moves? This is where our doubts stem from. To this day, there have been no reports of Liverpool actually putting in a concrete bid to sign a player, despite being linked to many. This raises the question, are Liverpool being opportunistic, or is it more of a passive approach? Take Leny Yoro for example. From day one, it's been well known that the 18-year-old had his heart set on a move to Real Madrid. And we all know how things usually end up when we're linked with someone the Spanish club wants. As a result, not only did Liverpool not put in an official bid, but they completely pulled out of the possible deal, convinced that Yoro was going to Madrid. Now look what happened over the last few days. Manchester United came in with a bid that got accepted by Lille, leaving the decision up to Yoro to either join the Red Devils or wait for Real Madrid. Obviously, the 18-year-old opted to move to Old Trafford, convinced by United's project and their financial proposal. Sure, the reported transfer fee and salaries offered to the player are kind of ridiculous, especially for an 18-year-old with just one full senior campaign and one more year left on his contract, so we're not annoyed with how United got the player, we're unsatisfied with how our club didn't make any efforts to get Yoro and quit the race despite him being reported as a top target. See, this approach of waiting for opportunities is a double-edged sword. Yes, you can dodge bullets by not jumping on players who might not be at the required level. And yes, such an approach would give Slot and his staff more time to assess the squad and identify the key positions that needed to be prioritised. But unfortunately, this also means that the club might miss out on some players with huge potential, and what's even worse is when we decide to give up on a deal before even trying in the first place. Defensive depth. Now that we've mentioned Leny Yoro, we need to address the club's defensive depth. At the moment, we have 4 options for the centre-back position: Van Dijk, Konate, Jarell Quansah, and Joe Gomez, who has been more of a utility player in recent years. Of course, there's also Sepp Vandenberg, who returned from a loan spell and is said to have impressed Arne Slot so far in pre-season. Are these options good enough? Well, obviously they are. However, we have doubts about the actual depth in the defensive department. We all remember the 2020-2021 season when Liverpool had no first-team options to fill in at centre-back. With football, you never know the situations you might end up in, and so we believe the squad needs at least one more first team option for the centre-back position. We stated the first reason, which is to improve the defensive depth, but our second and most important reason is that Liverpool should look at the current summer as an opportunity to plan for life after Virgil van Dijk. The Dutchman is already 33 years old. Sure, he still has at least 2 more years left to play at the highest level, but we should keep in mind how special Van Dijk is. Players of his caliber only come around once every decade. That's why we think it's time to start looking for his replacement, as it's already near impossible job to find someone of his level. Again, this is where we have our doubts about the club's transfer approach. So far, it doesn't look like the Reds are planning to address this situation. Otherwise, why didn't we make an attempt to go after Riccardo Calafiori? The club was obviously interested in the Italian, but ended up not making an effort until Arsenal came in. This raises the same question again. Are the Reds being opportunistic or just passive? Because the signing of Calafiori's physical and technical qualities at around £42 million is an obvious opportunity in our eyes, especially since he's still only 22 years old. told. Of course, we have no inside information about whether the club is going to address the defence situation and Van Dijk's potential replacement. However, we are convinced that the board is fully aware of these issues and is undoubtedly putting a plan in place. We have doubts about how rapid, smooth and efficient these plans are going to be though. Not prioritising the midfield. This video is sponsored by Clothing. Clothing is a Liverpool clothing site owned by match-going fans. Each design is limited edition and is perfect to wear on a match day, on the terraces at Anfield, down your local, or cozy in the comfort of your own home. As stated, each design is limited edition, and if a product is showing out of stock, they will not be restocking the item, so if you have your eye on something, grab it fast. Lastly, Clothing wants fellow Reds to be 100% satisfied with their orders, so if there is a reason you're not happy, they will refund you with no questions asked. Head over to clothing.com or down into the link in the description to get all of your Liverpool merchandise. Anyway, let's get back into today's video. Other than Edison links earlier in the window and vague talks about Porto's Varela, were Liverpool reported to show concrete interest in a midfielder, specifically a number 6. And we're talking about realistic targets here, so no, not the £100 million man, João Neves. Sure, we're aware that the midfield is probably the richest area in the current squad, but don't we all agree that the majority of the available players cannot play as a lone 6? Sure, some might argue that Arne doesn't use a single pivot, but when you watch the game, there's often a midfielder who drops deeper during build-up while another stays high, creating the staggered lines that allows the team to progress the ball. Curtis Jones, Ryan Gravenberch, Alexis McAllister and even Szoboszlai can operate as number 8s, but when it comes to defensive midfield, the club only has Wataru Endo and Stefan Bajcetic, who's returning from a long spell on the sidelines. Sure, both players have what it takes to play that role, but the clue is in what we just said. You can't expect Endo to play week in and week out, especially with the club returning back to the Champions League. And for Bajcetic, it would be criminal to throw the young lad immediately into the fray, expecting him to return to action in full physical capabilities after the last season. So this is where we start to have our concern. Not only why the club are yet to make a move for a defensive midfielder, but why aren't we being linked to talented players in this position? Which brings us to the fourth and final doubt about the club's transfer strategy. A new forward isn't even considered. Sure, it's frustrating that the club has only been linked with a few defensive midfielders, but that's nothing when you realise that no strikers were considered in the transfer market, especially when keeping in mind the number of chances the Reds missed last season. Sure, Darwin Núñez can explode under the new management. In fact, we've always said that Arne Slot's method of improving players will be key to unleashing the Uruguayan's full potential. Diogo Jota can also play a key role alongside Cody Gakpo, who excelled in the last Euros. But what if Darwin fails to improve? What if Diogo Jota's injury record keeps getting worse, making him even more unreliable? And what if Gakpo continues to struggle to adapt to the Premier League and fails to deliver in the number 9 position just like he did last season? Sure, there's an up-and-coming Jadon Danns who impressed last campaign in his brief cameos, but should he really be considered as a first choice? Obviously not. Again, this is where we start to become doubtful. Why is the club not linked with a proper number 9? In this position, not even considered going into the coming season. The same goes for wingers. What if Luis Diaz leaves the club? Will the Reds only react then to bring in a replacement? Wouldn't that make it a reactive approach in addition to being passive? Shouldn't the club already be looking for Salah's future replacement? See, we're asking those questions not because we want the club to bring in every single player they lay their eyes on. It's the fact that there is no concrete interest in such players that is making us have these doubts. Again, don't get us wrong here, guys. We're not trying to be negative. We keep saying it. We have full faith in Edwards and his team to do the right thing. However, despite knowing that our CEO of football likes to work in silence, it is crucial for the supporters to have a clear view of the club's transfer strategy. Being opportunistic can be a double-edged sword, as we mentioned earlier. But in case these opportunities do not present themselves, the club needs to be active and on the hunt for talents to give Arne Slot the best chance to succeed in the post-Jurgen Klopp era. So what do you guys think? Do you agree with our doubts we have about the club's transfer approach? Do you think a clearer plan should be laid out to the supporters? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. That does bring us to the end of today's deep dive. Please do smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more Liverpool content. Thank you, and I'll see you all next time. Take care. Peace.